Berman Golf Podcast, where we're helping golfers over the age of 60 increase distance off the tee so that they can hit shorter irons into the green. Yeah, baby. You can visit us at bermangolf.com for more information and get ready. This is going to be a fun one. And we're back with the Long Balls Golf Podcast. Dr. Jake Berman here with my co-host,
Jan Cermak.
What's happening? We got Mr. Jan a little under the weather here, so bear with us if we got some sniffling in the background. We got some allergies kicking your ass, man.
Completely destroyed.
All right, what are we on? Number 5 or 6 or something like that?
I think this is number 6. You did a solo one, so I think we're at number 6. 5 together, 6 total.
Nice. This is exciting. We're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you today about like the actual core of Berman method and what we're actually teaching.
Oh, now we're really going to get into the good stuff. But why? What do we even do? What do we specialize in? Why are we doing this podcast?
So we basically teach people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s and beyond how to swing faster using their core muscles and increase their distance off the tee by 20 to 30 yards, sometimes even more. Sometimes we have special cases that can't believe how, they come here, they're hitting a certain distance and they go out hitting 40, 50 yards longer to drive. Sometimes they've never been able to hit it above 200 yards and suddenly they're hitting it 230 to 40, within an hour. So it's an amazing transformation.
Okay, so said in much simpler words, we specialize in helping golfers over the age of 60 increase distance off the tee.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better.
But it's not just the tee. It really does translate to all, if not, or most, if not all of the clubs. For example, I was working with a gentleman just today who is an insane transformation. We started on March 10th was my first day with him, and he was hitting a 7-iron, a max of 84 yards with a club head speed of 60 miles an hour. And today we had a max of 135 yards with a club head speed of 63 miles an hour.
That's incredible.
That's 51 yards improvement with a 7-iron, not driver. That's 7-iron.
We were talking about on one of the last podcasts about the psychological effects that it has on the player.
Yeah.
How you're able to take pressure off from other parts of your game, like your putting, your chipping, your driving. Because if you're able to increase the distance off the tee, or let's say you increase the distance on your irons and you're hitting them much more solid and much more down the pipe, you're able to take, pressure from your chipping on your approach shots or your bunker play, because you're not going to be, playing that far off from the green, or you're not going to be having those impossible approach shots that you have when you're, playing par 4s like par 5s. So everything changes and your attitude also changes, which is the most important part.
It is. So I wanted to bring up this specific example, and it couldn't have happened on a more convenient day since we're recording this today, because you started out saying that you want to talk about how using your core to swing the golf club helps you swing the club head faster.
Correct.
Right? So one reason why I wanted to bring that up is it's not so much swinging it faster as it is a combination of swinging it faster with more power. And really, power is the biggest thing. It's the biggest, or it's the lowest hanging fruit, meaning that if we use this specific example that I just used, this gentleman started on day 1 swinging a club head speed of 60 miles an hour and hitting the ball 84 yards with his 7-iron. Today, he swung at 63 miles an hour, so he gained a whopping 3 miles an hour of club head speed, but the ball is now going 135 yards. So it's not so much that he's swinging it faster versus he's swinging it with his core. He's using power to hit the ball now. So speed is irrelevant if you don't have power behind it. And that is the biggest change from younger people versus people over the age of 60 is when you're younger, you can get away with swinging the club fast because you got plenty of power. Anybody over the age of 60 should know that as you get over the age of 60, you're not as powerful as you were before the age of 60 in general, right? Just in general. So that's one of the most amazing things about doing what you're going to talk to us about today is by focusing on swinging the club with your core, not only is the club going to go faster, but it's going to be so much more powerful.
Also, it's going to be more consistent, which is a word that not a lot of people talk about, the consistent behind the shot. So basically, you have to really think about a weight at the end of the rope and think about your hand. If you start, if you think about your hand as a core of your body and you move your hand fast, that weight at the end of the rope that you're holding is going to move faster and faster. That's called centrifugal force. The same thing applies to your body. If you're able to move your core fast, which is moving within an axis, and you make it repeatable, your hands, your arms, and the club are going to move like that rope. And your club face or your club head is going to be like the rock at the end of that rope. So if you're moving your core fast and you're doing it in a repeatable fashion, your arms, your club, and your club head are always going to move even faster and in the same plane. And they're going to hit that ball harder and with more power behind it. So it's basically using centrifugal force through your core to be able to hit it faster, which is it's a contrarian approach to what usually people over 60 use because they're using their hands to do everything. They focus on using their hands, their arms, and they're taking the club in many different ways back. They're bringing it back in many different ways through the swing. So it really is changing the approach from a golfer who hits a ball with their hands to a golfer who hits a ball with their body.
It's so hard to do, though. I mean, so hard to do. I mean, I'm a perfect example of it where, I'll humbly say that when I first, let me start here. When I first started golfing, it was back with my college roommate. We were in grad school together, and he was still is a very good golfer. I'm actually playing with him this Sunday up in Palatka in a nice course up there. So hopefully we get some good footage this weekend because I plan on out driving his ass. I've never, ever even come close, but he's going down. But anyways, when he first got me into golf, it was so frustrating because I can humbly say that I was in amazing shape physically at that time, the strongest I've ever been in my life. But I was lucky to get a 7-iron to go 130 yards. I mean, lucky. And it just drove me nuts. So I just kept trying to swing it faster, muscle it, swing it faster. And as everybody listening should know, the result was worse and worse and worse.
That's when you introduce shanks and tops and shunky balls, and you got all sorts of S's and C's in your shots.
But it wasn't until I really learned that the arms are like noodles or extensions. I mean, they really should be loose and really focus on turning my core and loading up my right hip and turning my core the other way, and the arms and hands just follow. Then it's like, oh my gosh. Like, it was an immediate jump in 30 yards. Went from hitting a 7-iron 130 yards to 160 yards instantaneously. And then I'm even more mad. I'm trying less, but the ball is going farther. What the heck is going on here?
Efficiency.
I was way more efficient.
Yeah.
Working smarter, not dumber.
Also, it's repeatable. If you think about golf, the ball is a couple inches wide, or maybe like even less than that. The club face is a couple inches wide. Imagine returning that club face at 120, 110 miles an hour to the golf ball using your hands as the main driving force. You'll never be able to do it because your arms are just another hinge in your whole movement. But if you're doing it with your core and you're rotating within your axis and you stay within that axis, you're going to be able to do that 98, 99 times out of 100. Because you're always moving the right way.
It's so true because I would say at least 90% of the clients that I've worked with as we've developed this program, at least 90% of them, the first thing that they start coming back and reporting as we're going through the initial sessions, it's not that the ball is going so much farther, but it's usually around the third or fourth session, they'll come back and they'll report, man, I am shooting so much more consistently.
Yep.
Like the ball's not really going that much farther, but man, is it so much more consistent.
What was the name of that client that I worked with? Remember when we were...
Gary.
Yeah, he was hitting a 7-iron. I remember when we got here, he was hitting like 110, I think it was. And by the end of the session, we were at 150, and we were not going home till he hit 160. Yep. This gentleman was like 80, I think, or 70, 80 years old. How old is Gary?
Well, on one of the first podcasts, I said he was 70 or so, and he very quickly corrected me and said he's mid-70s, 76, I believe it was. So this guy looks very, very good. But he's 76. There's so many 76-year-olds out there that are using that as an excuse.
And so his story is exactly the point that we're trying to drive here. So when he got here, all the things that he was telling was like, he was consistently telling me, what do I do with my hands? Where do I put my hands in the backswing? Where do I put my hands in the follow through? How do I hit the ball in my hand? And I just started trying to teach him, don't use your hands, use your core. And as the class progressed and he saw his distance go up and he saw that he needed to first establish a good point of contact with the ground, then a good posture, then establish good balance, then start feeling his core and actually doing that thing that is so famous here at Berman, which is activating your muscles, activating your glutes, activating your core, feeling your connection. Once he started concentrating on feeling those things, he started asking less and less, what do I do with my hands? And as he asked less and less, what do I do with my hands? Coincidentally, his distance started going up. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it's because our program is so successful and it works, but it's as we get players to focus on the right things and stay away from the hands, we're just another link in the chain of your swing, they're able to hit it longer. So it's the big muscles that count. It's the big muscles that get the job done, not the small ones.
It's so true. And the reality of it is 99.9% of the people listening to this podcast are not even close to good enough to be able to control the golf ball with their hands. Because it just happens so fast. I mean, you said it earlier, you're swinging a club at 100, 110 miles an hour. How in the hell are you going to try to control that ball with your hands? Because there's so many joints, like there's so many moving parts in your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders. But if you focus on your core, there's really not a lot of moving parts because it's just rotating. It's just turning on axis. So you said that word earlier. It's turning on axis. One visual that I like to give people because they don't always know what that means. If you imagine your trunk, from your head to your ass is essentially in a cylinder, and you're turning your head to your pelvis essentially within that cylinder. That's called turning on axis, right?
It's basically you have a lower axis, which is your legs to your hip, and then the connection of your spine to your hip to your head. That's the second axis. So what you have to do is establish a good foundation with your legs and just pivot your back along that axis. The ability to return that axis into the same spot and hit the ball at doing 120 miles an hour, that's what separates the pros from our clients, because they come here thinking they want to hit it like a pro, but they don't understand the concept of moving within the axis. And when they hear about, this is a famous part that we always hear, it's like when you hear someone say he saved it with his hands, is when these pros are going hard right and they manage to flick it in the end and more or less get a hook back into the fairway. That's a famous, he saved it with their hands. Or he saved it with his hands, because basically pros don't hit the ball with their hands. When they're about to miss a shot, they can feel it. And saving the ball with your hands is a reactionary step that you take in order to not miss miss your ball OB and to try to keep it on the fairway. It's not something that pros do because they hit the ball with their big muscles.
And it's so funny you say that, because I'll never get tired of talking about that, because it never gets old. People come in here all the time. A 65, 75-year-old man will come in here saying, well, I just saw Justin Thomas do this, or DJ do that, or Phil Mickelson do this. I'm going, oh yeah? How many hours a day do you practice? Maybe one. Maybe. But the answer is usually 0. And I say, okay, how many hours a week do you practice? The answer might be 3. I said, how many hours a day does Phil practice? I think it was BJ Singh. Maybe.
BJ Singh's the story with the bucket of balls.
Yeah. Did I already talk about this?
Yeah, I already told
we talked about this. But anyways, my father-in-law was out on the beach right next to him in Ponte Vedra and just watching him hit a bucket of balls into a hula hoop with a 60-degree while his family's off having fun. But I mean, these guys are practicing all day, every day.
I got another story just like that one. So I was playing with my longtime coach from back in the day, and he told me that he went out to play with his daughter. His daughter is a LPGA player, and they went out on the 10th hole, and 2.5 hours later, it was a busy day. There was this guy hitting balls, hitting 50 to 60 wet shots, like yard wet shots. And when they come back, that guy was hitting the same shot. 2.5 hours hitting the same shot. Nick Price. Super, like, Hall of Famer, incredible golfer. In his, late age, already, beyond the senior tour now. The guy was just practicing 50 to 60 yarders for hours. And our clients and most golfers think they can just pop up here and hit it when they don't put the same effort. And even more important is the right question, which is, you can be practicing, but are you really practicing the right things? Or are you really making it worse?
Yes, it's the saying, practice makes permanent. Think about that. It's true. Practice makes permanent. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So you better be practicing perfectly, because it's going to be permanent. Whatever you're practicing is going to be permanent. But even worse, if you're not practicing, what the hell chance do you have for any type of consistency at all?
Yeah.
But neither here nor there. We spent the past couple of minutes talking about pros, and this podcast is not about pros. It's actually about amateurs, people that are as far away from pros as possible most of the time. It's about the people that just want to enjoy the game. There's no reason why you can't be 75 years old and still really enjoy playing the game. Hell, there's no reason why you can't be 85 years old and still really enjoy playing the game, because it's Dave. Dave is a guy, he's 92 years old, and he's quoted in my book, The Berman Method of Golf Performance, in chapter, I don't know what chapter it is, but he took me out golfing out on Pelican Bay one day. He's 92 and I was 36 at the time, and I'm going, okay, how's this going to go? But the crazy thing is, he was already utilizing the fundamentals that we had just came up with at the time, where he was loading his right glute and really pushing the inside of that right foot through the ground in his backswing. And he still say it to this day. He's like, Jake, the ball just goes straighter and it goes farther when I do that. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to enjoy the game, regardless of age, when you're using the right muscles and using your body appropriately. The ball's going to go farther. When the ball goes farther and in the right direction, it's more enjoyable.
It really changes your perception of what golf can really be. It goes from being like this masochistic thing that we all have to do because we have that little bug inside of us, to something that we really enjoy doing. And our older players is, you go from being a passive player to an active player, a competitive player. And I think that makes the game even more enjoyable.
Let's hit on that just a little bit more, going from a passive player to an active player. And synonymously is what it means to me is you're going from a defensive player to an offensive player. And I wrote about this in the book. I don't know if we talked about it on this podcast yet or not, but it's very simple. When you're playing defensively, you're tentative, you're apprehensive, you don't commit 100%. And the best analogy I can use is a downhill speed skier in the Olympics. I mean, how fast are they going on skis down a hill? And then they start cutting back and forth through the flags. If they have 1% or even a fraction of a percent of apprehension, they wreck. They absolutely wreck. When you're doing that, the only choice you have is to be 100% confident and commit. or you're not going to perform. So take that analogy back to golf. You're a 3-wood out from the green. How confident are you that you're going to stick the pin? I'm not.
I'm waiting for the green, until people move out of the green so I can put it on the green.
You are. I'm not. I mean, I'm just hoping to get somewhere around the green. So when I get up there and I whack the ball, I'm not 100% committed because I don't want to put it OB. Yeah. But if you give me a 9-iron in my hand, I walk up there with a swag, give a little waggle, and I just crush it. And I'm doing good. I don't know if I'm sticking the pin, but I'm going somewhere close. Like I'm having fun.
And that also goes back to the whole thing of so many players that get invited to play around, so many players that get asked to play out there with the boys, and they just don't because they don't feel confident. There are those loners that like to play by themselves or like to play, like in small groups, and they don't enjoy golf at its maximum capacity, which is your Sunday leagues, your events, your tournaments. Golf is so much more than just normal rounds. It's a sport that although it's a very individualistic sport where you're out there by yourself, it's a community sport. It's a sport where it brings people together, and a lot of players don't want to play because they don't feel confident and they miss out on these things. And it's something very also important about the game is that community aspect of it.
Well, that's all of it right there. If you don't have consistency and or you can't get off the tee a respectable distance, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like it's really embarrassing where I had that issue where when I first started getting into this thing, I had zero consistency. I couldn't hit a drive more than 220. And I'm playing, or my clients, they're very low handicappers playing at these very elite courses in town. And they were inviting me to go play with them. And I had the time. This is before I had a kid. But I said, no, I can't make it. Because I knew that I wouldn't be able to get off the tee. And even if I did get off the tee, that this guy that is twice my age is going to blow by me. And they're just going to be waiting on me. And I'll need a shovel to fill my divots.
You start getting that stress of, I got to hit it. I'm holding people back. I got to hit it.
Yeah, it's just not fun.
Yeah, so it's everything changed. Like I said, everything changes when perception changes. And in order to change your perception, you need to do a few things. First thing is come train with us and we'll help you. We'll help you change your perception. And the second thing is don't give up and keep training with us because we'll get you there. It's also a matter of, like you said, what was the phrase? Practice makes
permanent.
In order to make it permanent, you got to apply a lot of hours. This is not even though we make it look easy, because in an hour, we'll make you feel like you're hitting it 50, 60 yards. And it happens quite often and frequently with most of our clients. We need to keep working on those muscles. We need to keep activating you. We need to keep doing the right things so that all these changes become permanent.
Has to be. It's too many moving parts for you to get a one and doneer. And you're not good enough. I'm not good enough. You're not good enough. None of us are good enough. We need constant feedback.
The pros, these guys have like 40 different trainers. They have like a golf coach, a swing coach, a mental coach, a coach, a coach for their coach. Like, like they have every single coach out there. So like, and they're putting hours and investing millions in it. They're like thoroughbred horses, and you're trying to like get 1% of that. You have to also invest the time. You have to put in the effort, and you have to get out there.
Okay, so I think what we should do is try to give one piece of actionable tip, because we started out this podcast talking about how you got to swing with your core. Forget about swinging with your hands. Don't be handsy. Don't worry about your hands and your arms. Swing with your core. And we will be giving out little tidbits and blue light specials here and there over hopefully the lifetime of this podcast. So I'm going to try to say the same thing 1,000 different ways because what I'm about to say may not resonate with anybody. It may resonate with one person, but nobody else. But I'll try to say the same thing over and over again because eventually I'll say something and it'll connect. So one of the ways that you can think about swinging with your core is thinking about moving your backswing with your belt buckle. So don't even think about your hands taking the club back. Just think about initiating and completing your backswing with your belt buckle. And then reverse it. Initiate the downswing with your belt buckle. Don't think about your hands. Don't think about your arms. Don't think about the club head. The worst thing you could possibly do is think about swinging the club head. Hans actually told me that. He's a former pro. He's not officially a pro anymore, but he is a very good golfer. He is a scratch golfer. He competes
really good swing.
Yeah, very beautiful swing. He's over at Treviso Bay, and he's the one that told me that. He's like, don't think about swinging that club head. But anyways, neither here nor there. Let's get back to this immediately actionable tip. Think about initiating the backswing with your belt buckle. And then think about initiating the downswing with your belt buckle. And that's it. Just give that a try and just see what happens. What do you think? Is that okay?
Loosey-goosey, always, which means stay loose. It's a club. It's like a golf club. It's not like I don't know how many clients we talk to that like hang on to the club like it's their life on the line.
Like a slippery fish or something.
Yeah, it's like they're choking on the club. Loosey-goosey means relax your hands and use that belt buckle on the way back.
Listen, that's 2 tips of advice. I said 1.
I'm sorry. We'll pace it. We'll go one by one.
Cool. You got anything else to say before we wrap it up?
No, check us out. We're in Naples, Florida. Come visit us. Join us. We're starting a movement. Make sure that you join the movement and if your aspirations are to be a great golfer, we'll get you there.
Well, not necessarily that. We got to be careful with that because it's not just a great golfer. If your aspiration is to enjoy the game of golf,
even better.
If you want to enjoy the game of golf and maybe be a little more competitive again, if you don't want to use age as an excuse, you need to get on this train. Like we're doing this. This is going to take off. Go check out our website. We just redid it. So we got a fresh website up, bermangolf.com. Check it out. There's some free reports on there. Download some free reports. Get some more valuable content there. We got tons of videos on our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Check all this stuff out. This is really something different. This is not like the false prophets on the Golf Channel or YouTube or any of these other places. This is different.
It's the real thing.
The real deal.
It's the core of golf, if you could put it in a way. It's like what really matters,
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys listening to us. Stay tuned. Subscribe. Please subscribe to this, and we'll try to keep making sure that the audio sounds good, and we'll keep valuable content coming your way.
All right.
Thank you very much for tuning in this week. For more information, please go to bermangolf.com. That's B as in boy, ERMAN, bermangolf.com, and check out a ton of stuff that we have there. Or even better, go to our socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We're even on TikTok. Check us out everywhere. We've got tons of content going out every week. And please give us a thumbs up. Comment on the videos. Let me know what your questions are. Try to shoot holes in this. I'll do whatever I can to help you out the best that I can. Thank you, guys.